After 6 live-action standalone films, everyone's favorite web-slinger is finally facing off against Mysterio. Yes, Spider-Man Far From Home will make this original member of the Sinister Six into Tom Holland's on-screen nemesis. It's been a long time coming, but will the powers that be turn the tables on our expectations? Will Mysterio be more than meets the eye? Might this master faker end up being a hero? Join Screen Rant as we pull back the curtain on the mystery behind Mysterio. It's a crazy time to be a Spider-Man fan. At the end of Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man was dusted away into non-existence, thanks to Thanos' universe-altering super snap. Since we can assume the Avengers do something to undo this snap in the next massive Avengers sequel, we know in our heart of hearts that Spider-Man will be back in fighting shape for his next standalone outing, especially since Spider-Man Far From Home reportedly takes place right after the Avengers have their rematch with Thanos. With Spider-Man returning from his untimely death, the fact that timelines will swap and history will be altered after the 4th Avengers movie, anything is possible. Since our perceptions will be tinkered with following the previous Avengers showdown, what better character to add to the Spider-Man mix than the Master of Illusion himself, Mysterio? Apparently, however, Mysterio isn't the only member of Spider-Man's rogues gallery that's showing up in the movie. According to early reports, the Elementals, a group of creepy old weirdos with ancient traditions similar to the X-Men's Hellfire Club, will show their cult-like faces in this movie. This group may seem a bit obscure to headline as the main villains, especially for Spider-Man, who has many other notable villains in his canon. But maybe the Elementals will be just what we fans needed to shake up our expectations for what a live-action Spider-Man movie should be, especially after the genre redefining Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. In the comics, the Elementals were banished to another dimension, yet these godlike figures who were worshipped as a set of false Egyptian deities, basically similar to X-Men's Apocalypse, find a way to return to our universe and wreak some havoc. Since the first Avengers, Marvel has gone all in with the trippy-dippy sci-fi stuff from the comics. Before Avengers, throwing in aliens and time travel and interdimensional hijinks would have seemed like a tall order for a mainstream audience to take in, especially since the audience is already being asked to believe a man or woman in tights can accomplish superpowered feats. Since that time, however, each MCU installment has pushed the limits of the genre and made us change our minds about what we're willing to believe as an audience. Whether it be the style of the action, the political intrigue, the fast-paced comedy, the historical references, or the fantasy that each movie has focused on. So, with interdimensional beings added to Spider-Man's rogues gallery in this next film, does that mean we're in for a connection to the events of the animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in our live-action MCU future? And more importantly, if they're the villains, where does that leave Mysterio, one of the OG members of the Sinister Six? At Brazil's 2018 Comic-Con experience, lucky fans were treated to a trailer for the July 2019 film, which gave viewers glimpses of 3 elementals wielding water, fire, and sand. It's likely these are the powers belonging to Hydron, Hellfire, and Magnum. Spider-Man appeared to face them while he was on a school trip to Venice, and in the footage, Gyllenhaal's Mysterio appeared to help him. Reports from this event, of which Collider Steven Weintraub referred to as effing awesome, described this iteration of Mysterio as a co-protagonist. The footage went on to hint at a romantic subplot involving Peter and Michelle, and another involving Happy Hogan and Aunt May. Plus, the sequences gave us the hopes for decent-sized roles for Nick Fury and Maria Hill. But with Mysterio as a potential hero, how does he fit into the overall story arc? And what's he doing in Europe? Is he a visual effects artist as his alter ego Quentin Beck is in the comics? Or does his arc follow a more recent iteration of the character that gives him actual mystical powers? With the Elementals as villains, literally they're interdimensional supervillains, we have to imagine that Gyllenhaal's Mysterio is in Europe, fending them off with some kind of magical research or training at his disposal. That is, if Gyllenhaal's Mysterio is truly a good guy. While a mystical and mind-bending magic battle is something we'd expect from the Sorcerer Supreme, Mysterio doesn't appear to be lurking in the shadows. At least, not in the shadows of Far From Home's IMDb page. And it's interesting to note that while an illustration from an Empire magazine article shows Gyllenhaal wearing the thick green suit and long cape that characterizes Mysterio in the comics, he's also wearing a gold breastplate. It's armor that harkens back to an older time period. Apparently, he also still sports that iconic fishbowl helmet, since a leaked image of a Dr. Pepper label showed the outline of the villain's bulbous head. With the classic costume and the newer grandiose elements, there's a chance that he's either a mystic enthusiast or, in this version, he can actually manipulate forces beyond our perception. With the elementals, these supernatural and superpowered beings operate like many other godlike creatures from other dimensions. They need a keymaster, someone who can help them claim their place in our world. Similar to Rick Moranis' character, Louis Tully from Ghostbusters, who was needed to help usher Zool into our reality. The elementals will likely require a servant to help them enter our present dimensions in the comics. If Mysterio summons the elementals into our world, he might join forces with the good guys to help clean up his mess, only to turn on them later. But since the MCU likes its movies to connect to a larger overarching story, it's unlikely that Mysterio's summoning of the elementals would be a standalone plot point. Even in the shadows of Thanos' war, we're likely to see some connection between the elementals, Mysterio, and the larger stories going on behind the scenes with other Avengers-related characters. And maybe our reactions will be as surprised as Jake Gyllenhaal's was on his recently released Instagram video. The actor posted a video on the social media platform in early December 2018, showing himself reading Amazing Spider-Man number 311. In the video, the frame focuses on the cover of the comic book issue. Then Jake Gyllenhaal lowers the comic book, focusing on the page. It cuts out before he can finish his shocked phrase, "What the fuck?" Video plays on the long-standing joke of Gyllenhaal's resemblance to Tobey Maguire with his caption, "I just realized I'm not playing Spider-Man." More on that reference later. First, let's just touch on the issue Jake Gyllenhaal was reading in the video. Is there a reason he chose to read that particular issue in the video? Most likely, it's one of many comic books that Marvel provided to the actor for his research in the role. But where Far From Home is concerned, it's interesting that Gyllenhaal was thumbing through volume 311. This particular issue is Mysterio's first appearance in around 8 years. The villain's reemergence plays with Spider-Man's senses, creating a trippy and dangerous new reality out of everyday New York. Ultimately, Mysterio reveals to Spider-Man that his actions led to the death of an innocent bystander, and it was all done as a means to shake up the wall crawler's emotions. This doesn't make him sound like much of a good guy at all, but it does give us a potential ulterior motive for the Master of Illusion to act good. He just wants to earn Spider-Man's trust before stabbing him in the back and screwing with his psyche. Let's just reiterate that Gyllenhaal's Mysterio does seem to get very close with Peter Parker. According to Jake Gyllenhaal at Brazil's CCXP, Mysterio seems to follow the kids around on their school trip. When mentioning how much of the movie is a lighthearted fun ride, he said, "We go to London, we go to Prague, we go everywhere." Did he mean we as in the audience, or we as in he, Spidey, and the students? If that's the case, is Gyllenhaal an unofficial chaperone or something? According to the actor, he appears to be serving in a teaching role, surprisingly, since at the same CCXP event, he said the following in regards to Spider-Man and the Elementals. He teams up with a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and unfortunately, he has to make him become more than just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Regarding the heroic Mysterio angle, both Tom Holland and Jacob Batalon, who plays Ned Leeds, have described Mysterio as a protagonist and someone who's needed because he knows the Elementals. At Brazil's Comic-Con experience, Tom Holland went so far as to say the following: "There are these threats to the world, the Elementals, elemental creatures, and Mysterio is someone who knows about them and wants to make sure that the world is safe from them. And Nick Fury asks him to come on and help because he's the only one who really understands them. And then he teams up with friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and unfortunately has to make him become more than a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man." That said, Tom Holland is now pretty well known for not being the most tight-lipped of actors. His track record is on par with David Prowse, Star Wars' man in the Darth Vader suit, who was so talkative about plot spoilers he was given fake lines and faulty info so as not to ruin the original Star Wars storylines before the movie's releases. In recent times, Mark Ruffalo has held the mantle of spoiling actor. He's been pretty open in interviews, even giving away the fact that everybody dies in Avengers Infinity War, months before it was released. At the time, his partner in that interview, Don Cheadle, gave a reaction that told viewers that Ruffalo's comment might be true. Ruffalo appears to have passed on his chatty, hulky attitude to Holland, who's blabbed on more than one occasion about the MCU's secrets, including this one time he revealed an Avengers poster on social media before it was supposed to be released. In an ironic twist, he supposedly received the poster from none other than Mark Ruffalo. The whole reason we bring this up is that Marvel could have fed Tom Holland false information to throw fans off the true nature of Mysterio and Spider-Man Spider-Man's relationship. But with Jacob Batalon and the fans at CCXP, we have to say with general certainty that Mysterio just might be fighting on the good side in this one. And this wouldn't be the only time that Gyllenhaal fought on Marvel Comics' quote-unquote good side. Back around 2004, when Sam Raimi and company were gearing up to make Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire and his representation reported that back injuries sustained on the set of Seabiscuit would impede the actor's ability to play Spider-Man in the first sequel. At the time, Sony believed it to be a power play, and Tobey Maguire had previously lobbied for more money, and hey, power to him, it's hard work being a superhero in real life and in Hollywood. In order to bring Tobey back to the table, Sony announced that other actors were being considered to replace him, one of them being Jake Gyllenhaal, who was hot off the heels of Donnie Darko at the time. One can't deny that Gyllenhaal and Maguire have a bit of a resemblance. They even played brothers in the movie Brothers. So while Gyllenhaal never got to be the hero of the behind-the-scenes Spider-Man drama, he's back, potentially making a hero out of a villain in the 7th Spider-Man movie's on-screen drama. Now, since Marvel has been pretty professional about keeping their surprise twists close to their cape, it's hard to imagine that the only table-turning moment in the film would be the reveal that Gyllenhaal's Mysterio has been evil all along, especially since he's famous for always having been a bad guy to begin with. So perhaps there's another layer here. Could Marvel's story group be setting up the Elementals as fake villains all along? Might they be figments of Mysterio's screwed-up imagination, projected through a series of faked/conjured disasters? That's certainly a possibility, and one that only Gyllenhaal's Quentin Beck could truly know how to solve. If brought in by the authorities as an expert on the Elementals, he would be able to prove himself and gain worldwide recognition as the man who defeated these interdimensional menaces. Since Marvel has done such a good job of making us believe in the fantasy and science fiction elements of their live-action comic book adaptations, the biggest surprise for casual audience members just might be that the movie's big-budget special effects used to depict the villains were just that, special effects. Whether Gyllenhaal turns out to be good or evil, we're pretty sure he'll do a good job regardless. The guy knows how to commit truthful performances to the screen, and with a live-action turn for Mysterio finally happening, there's a good chance we'll be shown a master of illusion that we never could have imagined seeing on our own. So that's what might be in store for Spider-Man Far From Home. Do you have any ideas or theories of your own about the fishbowl-headed character? Or do you think we're overthinking his place in the web-slinger's next movie? Let us know in the comments section below, and be sure to stay up to date on all of Screen Rant's latest happenings by subscribing to our channel and checking out all the many other Spidey videos we'll be sending your way. Get bit by Screen Rant's metaphorical spider, join the conversation, and we'll see you around.